Hey guys, it's Mike here, and this is session 8.2 in your Excel textbook. So I'm going to teach you all about this crazy formula right here, which is an embedded if function, and as well as this crazy formula right here, which is an if error function, as well as we're going to go over Vlookup and Lookup in this tutorial. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is use a nested if function, which is when one if function is included inside another if function, usually to calculate more than just two outcomes. So if you have more than two, you probably need a nested if function to calculate that kind of those kind of outcomes. So the scenario here is that our boss wants us to put a bonus amount based on an employee's seniority. So there's three different kinds. That means we need an embedded if function to make that work. So in N2, I'm going to start typing an if function, so equal if, and then open bracket. And I'll click in the formula bar, insert function, to open our if function dialog box. So we're going to look at years of service, the column, and so I'll click on the first one first. And we'll do years of service if it's greater or equal to 10. So we're going for the bigger amount. Greater or equal to 10 years of service. Then we would go to, now again I'm the clicker, so if you like typing in this, I don't know why you would, because it's just easier to click data tables, but go to the data tables worksheet and click the cell B19. Okay, so years of service 10 here, so we have a table that represents what we need. So they would get $500 as a bonus. And then make sure that you F4 or absolute cell reference that by clicking, so yeah, absolute cell reference it by clicking F4 so we can copy it down. And then, so that's our true statement. So they get 500 if they match the first one. Now there's two more outcomes left, so that's where we embed another if function inside of here in the false statement. So I would put if, open bracket, and then again the same thing as before, so we click on years of service. If it's greater than or equal to 5, and you just put comma, it should be like a sub dialog box, and then do the same thing as before. We would go to data tables, and it'll be B18 this time, and then just keep, so, and then F4 again to make that reference an absolute one, and then I'm going to put comma, and there's only one other scenario left, and then they would get this one. So I don't have to go through the same stuff again. The only option left is the 100, so I'm just going to click, so if it wasn't this one, this top one, and it wasn't this one, it has to be this one. So the only thing left is this, and then I'm going to add 4 to make it absolute so that we can copy it down, and then I'm going to make sure that I closed all of my brackets. So we have to make sure that there's a black bracket to match the first black bracket. So the red one, the next color after the black brackets would be red, and if that's the last bracket you see, you have to put another one. So now we have enough brackets or parentheses in there. So press OK, and there's our numbers based on the embedded if function that we just put in, and just maybe double check that it's correct. So if it's over 5, it should be 250, yeah, but not, and then 500 if it's over 10, and 100 if it's below 5. So that makes sense for the first few. Yep. So that actually worked. And another way to see if something, if a reference worked in a formula, would be to change the number. So in this hypothetical scenario, our boss just keeps getting more awesome, and let's just say she changed 500 to 750. Maybe she really appreciates the people that have worked over 10 years plus, so she's going to change the bonus to 750. And you press enter, and that, if you've done the reference correctly in the formula, that should have changed all the 500s to 750, and we have, so that's great. So yeah, that's another way to test to see if the references are correct in your formula. So now we're going to revisit VLOOKUP tables and use it in this example. So just before we get started, I just want to have a look at this data tables. And what's nice about doing a VLOOKUP is, well, a lot of nice things about doing a VLOOKUP, but in this example, they actually have a name for this range right here. So this is the table we want to refer to. But if you see right here, now that I've highlighted this range, this range actually has a name to it. So we actually don't have to use a 3D reference. We can just use the name of the table and refer to it in the Vlookup formula. So that's what we're going to do. It's called product_suppliers. So you could do that. I mean, you could go through the length of like referencing the worksheet and then the range, but sometimes that's just a little bit quicker to put the name of the range or the table that you need. So we're going to type in product data in this table on product data on the product data worksheet. And then we're going to type in our Vlookup formula, so equals Vlookup. So that's a vertical lookup. And we're going to open the bracket to reference that table. And I'm going to pull my dialog box open by clicking the Insert Function button. So the lookup value is B2. So we want to look up B2, the quilting one here, and then see what kind of data it comes with when we compare it to the table, which has the name product suppliers. And what's nice about this is I don't have to absolute cell reference the range either. So that's what's kind of nice about naming a range, and then see how it kind of recognizes everything in that range or in the table. And then the information we need is actually in the second column. So we're looking up information in the first column and then referring it to the second. The second column information is the one that's missing. And then because it's an exact match, if you have something like names or money values, doing an exact match is good. Vlookup tends to look up a range, but we're going to tell it no by saying false here. We do not want a range, we want an exact match. So we would do that and then press OK. And I'm just going to auto fit my column there, and then everything turns out, just because of that range is or the table that we use is like it's already absolute cell referenced in a way because we used the name, so the table just filled it out and is able to copy the formula down the column. And before we go on, you might just notice something about your worksheet, and it's totally okay because we were looking for an exact match. You might see some of this, and that's okay. We'll fix that. So now we're going to do a VLOOKUP that has an approximate match. And if you look at the table that we're going to refer to, you could see why we have to do approximate match and not an exact match. So in this scenario, our boss wants us to identify employees with the color of their badge to the number of years they're working here. So maybe, you know, someone's a gold badge, they get a lot of respect around work, at work. Yeah, something like that. And you notice that if they were a blue badge, they could either be in their years of service as 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. So it's not an exact match, it's just a range, which VLOOKUP is kind of meant for. So it kind of makes more sense. We don't have to put false at the end of our if functions. Our VLOOKUP function. So we'll type it in here. We'll name badge color. So we'll refer to the name badge color here. Let's auto fit. Okay, so then equals VLOOKUP. So we'll do another VLOOKUP, and we'll refer to that table that we just looked at. So I'm going to go into my insert function dialog box. So we want to look up years of service. So for the first person, we want to look up their years of service and then compare it to what's on the table. So that's our lookup value. And then the table array is called, the table range was called name underscore badge, which is kind of nice because then we don't have to absolute cell reference the table. And our information was in column 2. So the years of service was in column 1. The color of the badge was in column 2. We'll put it in. And then we don't actually have to put anything in here when it's a range. You could put true if you want to, but leaving it blank also means true. So you could just leave it blank because it's easier. And then they should fill out the color so you know which color badge to give them, that employee. So now we're going to do an H lookup, which is just, it's the same thing as a VLOOKUP, except instead of vertical, it means horizontal. So instead of referring to the columns like in this table, we're going to refer to the rows. And as you see here, this table range has been referenced as specialty store, so that's its name. So we're going to use that in the product data worksheet. So in E1, we're going to type in specialty store and refer to that specialty store horizontal table. So that's a H lookup. And then we're going to type in our new equals H lookup. So horizontal lookup. And I'm going to use the insert function button. So we want to look up, we want to refer to B2, we want to look the category. Let's see which store sells it. So the name is specialty store. So which specialty store will we need? Underscore store. So again, it just refers to the horizontal table now. And it was in row 2, not column 2. And again, if it's arranged, you can just leave this blank. If it was an exact match, we would say false, and that's what it's asking us. So we type in false to get an exact match. Just like, sort of like the example just in the product data beside it. Yeah. And then press OK. And because we used a range instead of like a normal table, we didn't have to absolute cell reference it. So this should work for all the other ones, and then it did. And then we'll deselect the column here. Alright, so on the product data worksheet, as you noticed before when we were putting our Vlookup, our exact match, we had one that didn't match anything. So in the table, and it also didn't work in our H lookup exact match. So that's okay, we can fix that by putting in what we call an if error. So if it doesn't return the result we want, there's a way to fix that. So we would just nest the Vlookup function within the if error by clicking if error. And your case studies are a little bit like this too, where they say put an if function within, or nest the Vlookup function in an if function, and what they're not telling you is that sometimes it's an if error. It's only when the Vlookup formula there's something that doesn't match. So if error, open bracket, and then you see the red bracket again. That means we're not done yet. So if it doesn't match, then you're going to say, okay, so what do you want it to say if it, instead of saying NA? And we get to choose because we've put an if error function in there, and then we're going to say various instead. So maybe there's not one supplier, there's not one store, it's just various stores. And then close. And then that's our kind of like new error message, I guess. So if error, if you want to change that. And then just to get some practice with the if error, we're just going to put it on the nested H lookup as well. So if it doesn't come up with, we want to do the exact same thing we did the Vlookup. So type if error, and then we want to put comma, same thing, various. So remember to put quotations around various because it'll come up with it as a name error if you don't. And then put the outside bracket, and that should work now. When we press enter, it comes up as various instead of NA. So it just shows it's not an error really, it's just not, it doesn't match anything inside of the table. Alright, so that's it for module 8.2. I'll have 8.3 up pretty shortly, but while you're waiting for that, you can check out this awesome video from one of my students, Sarah. If you are a student yourself and you want a challenge and you want to learn how to solve tutorial 7 case 3, that's how. And if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe, and thanks for watching.